You are tuned in to the Musical Mamas broadcast. I'm your host, Cinder Sparks. Have a rest and take note as we showcase musical mamas, women in the music industry, and friends of musical mamas, discovering their journey through the magic of music. Thank you for tuning in to the Musical Mamas broadcast. This is our November feature of Carrie Day, Part 2. We'll explore interesting tidbits of the adventures through music that Carrie has experienced and talk about branding and other interesting features. So grab a cup of coffee, have a rest, and take note and enjoy the rest of this special November feature.
Yeah, so where I'm at in my creative life is I just want to do the things that feel satisfying, aren't super stressful, and to kind of pick and choose, because there's a lot that is like when you put music out, then you have to do this and you have to do this and you have to get on iTunes and Spotify and you have to put it here and there's just many things that maybe in quotation marks have to happen, but it can be overwhelming and kind of take the energy out of, well, why do I do this anyway? What compels me to create and write songs and record them in the first place? And so just to sort of, be selective about the things that I want to put my time and energy into.
Yes. So, I wanted to ask you the question about advice that you have heard. What would you say was the best advice and the least desirable advice?
Okay, so this was maybe in 2007 or 8, and I was playing around Alberta and into Saskatchewan, Manitoba, and BC a little bit more at that time. And I was in Calgary at my friend's house. She hosted a house concert. And I don't remember too much about that night at all, but I vividly remember one of the guests that was there, and he came to talk to me afterwards. And I don't even know how we came to talk about this, but he just said, the people that make it are the ones that don't give up. Yes. And that stuck with me. And then I know that I'm goal driven, so that can just help me in just finishing a project. Like, just don't give up. Just get it done. Set a deadline. Stick to it.
Yes.
And it makes sense. And then least desirable advice. I don't know if it's that per se, but I think artists are sometimes encouraged to really look a certain way or have a certain, we are our product, right? Yes. We have to have strong branding, and so that's been kind of I've been encouraged to work on my branding, and I just have such a hard time. And it's actually good advice. It is really good advice. There's a disconnect for me. I can admire people like you and other people that just have this image and it just works, and you go into character, and I can't even put on makeup very well. I never got those skills, and then I just don't invest the time. So I just have to keep things quite natural and not too dressed up, and that maybe isn't a good thing, but it's just how it is.
Well, I think sometimes it's the perspective of yourself and kind of pairing to what you do see around you. Yeah. Because I would say, there's certain things that I've been attracted to that maybe add to my image, but that theatrical playfulness of me, I I can kind of bond with it.
Yeah.
And if you have
very
a
natural
prop,
for you.
yeah, it's certainly with because I kind of chose it and it worked and it fell together, but it wasn't necessarily something that I set out to plan and do. It just naturally progressed. And but if I'm trying to work with a prop that doesn't bond with you, it'll throw you off,
Right.
because it's got to fit.
Yeah.
You know,
It has to
and
feel right.
exactly. And when you're like, you know, I see you is certainly a very natural, you know, earth person, I would maybe describe you as, because you have long hair and certainly you don't go and have a lot of makeup, which is, you know, fine, because you shouldn't have to have certain looks. Or I'm sure if you wanted to dress up for an occasion, you might be inspired to, if you so wanted to, but it shouldn't be a criteria. And I think in a way, maybe you're so close to yourself and you see, well, this is how I always am.
Yeah.
I think I see you from another perspective, because of course you're not me. And I'm seeing a very very earthy, naturally connected person, and I see that your whole look is kind of pulled together, but it's you, and
Well, thank you.
and your voice and how you present really mesh up. I always say, oh, Carrie Day and her velvet voice, because you do have just a really soothing and pleasant voice on so many levels, with even different songs, and you know, great range and creativity in your work. I mean, your lyrics and such and melodies really speak certainly such a full package in that way. And when I saw you at the airport, certainly very notable, like, and I would say maybe with anti-flash, because you know, you like your neutral colors, you like, but it's you, and you're performing in the way that you feel comfortable. So maybe it's not like a big red hat that jumps out at you, but it's certainly still as part of your brand. I would say, just to give you some food for thought, is that you're fully connected within yourself and reflecting through your art. At least you chose to do and present yourself the way you feel comfortable with yourself. I think truly, if they glammed you up and backcombed your hair and put you in a big beehive and stuff, and made you have these false eyelashes on that make you feel like a Muppet because you're looking through the lashes, it might be really difficult to kind of pull off your songs, because you'd be out of your element.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and I have experimented a bit with that. I used to live, or our neighbors used to live next door to us. It was a husband and wife duo, and they did photography and makeup and branding, and they wanted to. Well, we both were like, oh yeah, we should do something. It'll be fun. And later when I saw, and honestly, on anyone else, they do amazing work. Like, everything looks just so beautiful, classy, just so artistic, and beautiful makeup. But on me, I just felt like, who is that?
Yeah, you don't even relate to the image. Yeah.
Oh, that's not me at all. Anyway, but it was fun. It's fun.
It's good to experiment.
It is. Yeah.
See what you like and how it feels. And
Exactly.
yeah. And it's about acceptance too. I think you're mentioning about the way the world is, and certainly self-expression through your image. Certainly it needs to be uniquely yours, that you feel happy, you know, with yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah, we're often told, oh, you have to be this way, or at least it feels that way, that you're given certain parameters, and if you don't fit into that square peg, then you're going to have problems. But then life can show you too that you can stand on your own and be yourself.
Remember that time, love, we lay in the field, love, and wept in the sun. heaven unveiled. I'll be right here, love, right by your side, love. I'll hold your hand and I'll ease your mind. You've lived a good life, you've done your best, gave more than enough love, now you can rest. Soon we'll be saying our last goodbye, love, into the light with angels you'll fly. Whenever I'll miss you, I'll go to the field and lie in the grass and feel you near. When my time comes, love, I know that you'll be there, waiting for me, love, dans la lumière. Remember that time, love, we lay in the field, love, and wept in the sunset of heaven unveiled.
You know, bravo to you. 10 songs. That talk about keep on swimming there. You certainly you didn't give up.
No.
And that's a fair distance of work.
Yeah.
How long do you think it would
It
do you
took me?
estimate that it took you?
So I started about a year ago, not really knowing how I would finish. So I just thought, okay, I'm going to get these ideas down. I'm going to learn how to capture sound as best as I can in this space with the tools that I have. And then I'll see where that's at. I'll see where I'm at. And then I'll see about the mixing process. Maybe I can hire someone to mix them. And in that time, well, then we had our kitchen
Yes.
do what it did, and other things. And I just thought, okay, well, I can probably get these to a certain level with mixing. So about a year-long process, and I wanted to finish before 2019 was over, because honestly, 2019 just felt like it went like this.
Yes, fast.
It really,
boom, it's over.
maybe all the years go that fast, but so that's why I just set a deadline for mid-November. I'm going to finish, and it was, I guess, when I have a deadline, then it just happens, right? I think that's kind of a normal thing.
It's really part of your goal
Yeah.
process is to have a deadline,
Yeah.
which is certainly for a lot of people
That's
really
how-
important,
yeah, for
because
sure.
you need to have that end date.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to play with that end date if your kitchen
Yeah.
has things happen, whether it be water or fire,
Yeah,
you know.
exactly.
Slight delays. Let's
Yeah.
adjust the expectation, but still to have an expectation, because
Yeah.
it's easy to keep going on and on. I mean,
Yeah.
some people, we have certainly heard, at least I know I have taken 20 some years to make an album, and you
Yeah.
almost can see why, if you keep wanting
Yeah.
to redo everything and
Yeah,
you hyper
exactly.
focus on it. Sometimes
Yeah.
you got to let that baby go,
Yeah, that's it too.
but then
Yeah.
find your own comfort time.
Yeah.
So with your launch is at the Cyber Cafe, and it's November 16th.
Yeah.
And how else can our audience find you?
Yeah, so I have a website, carrieday.com, And then I'm on all the social media with Carrie Day Music is the handle. I have quite a bit of stuff on YouTube, and then on all the digital platforms, most of my albums are there. The new one's not up yet. I still have to do that. I'm on Patreon. I should talk about that, because that is sort of the catalyst for getting me over that kind of first hurdle of I'm going to do some stuff this year.
Yes.
I had heard about Patreon, and I thought, yeah, that's really like a really good platform for supporting for musicians or whatever art or content creators are putting out. If they have listeners or followers, it's a really nice way to sort of be part of the journey and support the artist on their journey. And so I launched my Patreon page at the end of 2018. That was my goal for 2018, to kind of get some things going like that. And I just have a handful of wonderful patrons, and being kind of committed to getting new stuff out there and sharing with them, that's sort of what kind of pushed me along to get the album done. And just creating the time for that. Like, okay, I don't want to let my patrons down. I want to share something of value with them. And so then I would set aside the time. And I ended up doing all kinds of things. So the 10 album songs, some of them more than once, but a bunch of other songs that didn't make this album that maybe will be on the next one. And then other things like spoken word pieces and just different things that I felt compelled to share. Yes. And that pushed me as a creator to get new work done that I could feel good about and feel good sharing. Yes. So yeah, it's been wonderful. Like I'll keep going with Patreon and just it'll be one of those things that I think will help me stay consistently putting out new material.
That's really excellent and really good introspective connection with Patreon, because it certainly is a big element of connecting with your audience or your followers. And other media platforms, you're never really sure of how their algorithms are really going to be doled out for you.
That's true.
And I think at least this way it's a little bit more direct. Like you do have your people.
Direct.
I think that is more connective for the artist.
It is. Yeah, it definitely is. And it's a pretty small community right now, but maybe it will grow. So
Yes, that's how it starts.
Exactly. My handle there is also Carrie Day Music. So
good.
People want to check that out. And about social media, like I sometimes go through these phases where I don't feel like posting much, or I just don't even have the time to look at it. Yes. And then I notice that if that happens, and then I'm like, I want to share something, and then I share it, and then because you're not actively on there, then the algorithms work against you, and so you're not encouraged to share. And it's kind of a funny system, right?
It is.
It encourages us to spend a lot of time on there, and maybe that's not the healthiest way to spend time.
No, it certainly needs to have its own checks and balances for your personal well-being by far. There's been times I've had to time myself out from certain medias
because I've done that too. It's like,
need a little media break, change of focus, and
exactly.
It can be a little bit overpowering. Different news feeds, and
that too.
You're trying to adjust for what you see, and then you end up having just to adjust for how you use it. And exactly. I wouldn't want to say I don't want to use it, but I don't want it to use me.
Yes.
And that certainly has been a bit of a learning curve on many levels. Even just getting your website developed and up to the level that you want can be challenging, too. But it's all, I think, the beauty of learning and growing. Certainly, you've had quite an extensive education with music. Like you went to university with music. How would you reflect in that experience as a launching start? Like, there's some people that, you know, are more classically trained. I think that it certainly gives you a great structure to work with. Sometimes that's not always accessible for other people, and then I've had some give me feedback where they gone through university and then and took you know, music as their major and then never played again.
I know.
And same with
Yeah.
arts, like sometimes
I
it can almost kill the
know,
creativity and sometimes it can help
exactly.
it. How would you, what advice would you give to students?
Oh. Okay, so I almost dropped out in second year. So I did a classical program at U of A in piano, and the structure of it and the amount of time required, like I felt that my world was so tiny. It was this piano and this little practice room, and then the classes that I went to, which were all, you know, music history and theory and ear training and sight reading and how to teach music, pedagogy. So it was my, I felt it's so, you're so saturated in this one system of music, and it's not, I wasn't a composer then and I wasn't a songwriter then, so it was just sort of interpreting this beautiful music and perfecting it, I guess, and then sharing that. So it's not as creative as being a composer or being a songwriter. And it's also really challenging, and it's also, I remember being in the program and knowing I'm not a good enough, I'm not like a prodigy, I didn't have an early start, all of that. I couldn't see that I would ever get at a level where I could have a fulfilling career, even as like an accompanist or someone that, you know, a chamber musician or anything like that, and certainly not a concert pianist, right? Like, I just, that was not me. So it was hard to kind of stick to it and finish the program. But I'm glad I did.
Yes.
I have, I guess, probably a solid base, but that can also box one in, because it's like, well, no, you can't do that. Theoretically, you can't do that. But, or I only do what I know, and instead of just feeling free and just playing music. So when I was in my third or fourth year, I bought an acoustic guitar, just like $100 little guitar, and I didn't really have time to play it until I was done my degree, and that's how I sort of got into writing and freeing myself up, because the guitar is 6 strings and they're all tuned differently, and it just doesn't, it's not as geographically laid out and visual as a piano is. And so it kind of forced my brain to not think or think differently.
Oh, yeah.
And to play around with sound differently, and to find my way, find what I know about music and find that on a different instrument was revitalizing. But I want to say one more thing, and this goes back to what we said about kind of branding and having like props or a certain look. One thing that classical music training has helped me with is there's this sort of reverence towards the art form and reverence towards the composer that made this art. And you don't go on stage without feeling that, and without showing your respect by, you know, dressing up in some way that shows that reverence and that respect. And so I think that's something I still carry with me. Like, it's rare that I wear jeans to play in, right? So I usually wear like a simple something that is a little bit dressy, but so that goes back to that. And yeah, I think overall, having the classical musical training has helped with like being committed and dedicated. You need a lot of willpower to to learn complicated music and learn technique and things like that, or a lot of discipline, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And so I feel like I still have that. I still take that and I carry that into my projects, and that's good and bad. Sometimes I wish I could just be a little bit more chill about things, but I guess it's always about finding balance.
It is. Yeah. I think you're right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming out here and doing this interview for the Musical Mamas broadcast. I'd like to put a lot of vocal fry on the broad part because, you know, it emphasizes it. It's fun to do.
And you're good at it.
Thanks.
You're good at everything you do. Like, Musical Mamas branding is like on point. It's so good.
Oh, thank you very much.
The energy you put behind everything you do is just amazing and inspiring. So
thank you, Carrie.
Oh, you're welcome.
I'm so glad that you enjoyed it. I'm so glad that we got to meet each other through Musical Mamas and the musical community, and maybe it just comes together when you love what you do, and you know, as our friend Rhonda likes to say, open it up to the universe and let things happen.
Exactly.
Yes.
Wise words, Rhonda.
Wise words, indeed. Yeah. Well, I'm really looking forward to your CD release and your album. Always stoked. Thank you. I will certainly make a point to be there.
I hope you can make it.
Oh, yes, absolutely. And you know, keep on doing what you're doing, and I think one day you're gonna really bond with your brand and say, "Oh, it was here all along." And,
maybe.
Yeah, and I think that'll come to you absolutely. Yeah. Though I would certainly also encourage you to have some photo session with your with that grand piano, because it certainly just speaks Carrie Day.
Oh,
it's going to be a happier piano after you touch it more.
Oh, yeah. I'm looking forward to that.
Oh, cool. Mosey on over to Petals on the Trail, where the gifts are great. Come see what's for sale. Flowers, local art, music, and more. Go to the store, so much to explore. Mosey on over to Petals on the Trail. Located at 12720 127th Street, Edmonton, 780-482-7673. PedalsOnTheTrail.ca. Gold sponsor of the Musical Mamas Society. I'm Cinder Sparks. Thank you for listening. Tune in again and take note to share the Musical Mamas broadcast. Produced in partnership with Csparksfly Productions, the Musical Mama Society, and our gold sponsors, Petals on the Trail, Axe Construction, and the Edmonton Muse. Make your party a blast. Csparksfly. Visit cindersparks.com to find out more. To send contact requests and music, go to musicalmamasociety.com.